Good morning, traders. Today is Friday, August 5th. My name is Charles, and this is the Pirate Traders live stream. All right, well, what do we have going on here today? So, the market had a trend to the upside. It had momentum to the upside. That momentum broke, and we got 3 days of balance here. Then 2 days ago, we tried to break out of that balance to the upside. Yesterday, we just got rotation right on top of that balance area high. So essentially, the way to think about that would be that the market couldn't decide yesterday whether it wanted to continue the breakout or it wanted to fail and pull back down towards the balance area low. So it just kind of spent the day rotating around, in indecision mode. And then last night, the overnight market was looking like some strength. It was looking like it wanted to build support and continue higher right up until the non-farm payroll numbers came out, and dun 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 dun, they were twice what we expected. That's right, folks. You heard it here first. We added twice the new jobs that we expected to, and as a result, the market dumped. It's just a thing of beauty. Chef's kiss to the market participants for that. So, of course, now that we're back in the previous balance area, that increases the odds that we are rotating to the opposite end of balance. Okay, this is the balance area here. So passing back through it to the downside in the overnight increases the odds that we're heading down to 40, 85, 50. We are opening below yesterday's range, which means we have a gap down. It is a very, very large gap. Large gaps often don't fill the first day. So the first thing that we're looking for is a counter auction to the overnight inventory, which is net short, attempting to fill that gap. So we're looking for the market to push up, trying to get to yesterday's low at 41.36. If it finds resistance anywhere in here, and it can't get back up to yesterday's low, that is what's called a gap and go, which is very bearish, okay? If it's able to get up to yesterday's low and it finds resistance there, that is also a gap and go, which is very bearish for continuation to the downside. So when you take that, the momentum of the gap down, and you add it to the higher probability that we're heading to 40.85 as a balance area play, it makes me very bearish today. So I am looking for a counter auction to the upside when the market opens. I'm looking for it to trade higher. But if it starts to get resistance, and I think we're going to get a gap and go, it is a great opportunity to short, in my opinion. Got to wait for the resistance to be confirmed, because a gap fill is a high probability thing, but less so when the gap is this large. So I will be very closely watching for that resistance, because there will be opportunities there. Was that overly confusing? So market going to start up. If it can't get back up into yesterday's range, it's going to go down. That's pretty much the long and the short of it. Of course, if we can get back above value, if we trade our way back up into yesterday's range and we don't get resistance, pull back up above that balance area high, well, then this was just a liquidation break, which often strengthens a market, and we can look for some excess to the upside. But the higher probability is that we're heading back down to the balance area low. So let's see what happens. Market opens in uno momento. The NQ still looks pretty good as a potential channel. So if they are able to start to fill the gap on the NQ today, and they get back up into yesterday's range, again, that's pretty bullish as a bounce off of a channel low, which is another form of balance, another form of a bouncing area. So same thing for the NQ. Gap and go. Can they get back up to yesterday's low? If they do they get resistance there, or can they pull back up into yesterday's range? Bearish on a gap and go, bullish on re-entering yesterday's range. And yesterday's low is at about 13,187. Markets are open. Do we get a gap fill. If you have not yet, please smash that like button. Only got 47 likes this morning. I feel like we got some more pushes in us. Some little clicks on the thumbs up. Clickety clicks. Woo, look at those ticks. Overnight, very net short. Okay, potentially looking for support at halfback, 4111. Element, where the vomit? I'm not sure what that means. No vomit. Vomit free. You're looking for when is the market going to puke? It'll either be when it fills the gap, if it finds resistance up there at 41.36, or if it fails to fill the gap and passes back down through the open, then it'll be a gap and go. Particularly bearish if we get below the overnight low and find resistance there. But until then, the first priority is that gap fill, that overnight inventory. Got to give them traders a chance to take profits. Alex, interesting tick still below zero. Yeah, they're look at the overnight inventory, man. It's going to take them a minute to get back up to the zero line. Okay, looking for some resistance right in here around 23. Looks like they're going to try to fill that gap. Yep. NQ got a gap fill. So now we're looking for resistance. Do they start to sell off here at yesterday's low? Or are they able to get back up into yesterday's range? Resistance would be bearish as a gap and go. If they're able to start drifting back up into yesterday's range, that would be bullish, as this would be just a liquidation break. And liquidation breaks strengthen the market. To resist or not to resist, that is the question for the Q. ES still has a bit of a way to go here. It's only about a half gap fill right now. TY, yeah, it was the non-farm payroll numbers. We added double the jobs we thought we were going to add. So naturally the market sells off, right? The powers that be in the market go, oh fuck, good news. Let's fucking crash this market. We'll squeeze out all the weak hands and we'll buy up their longs. Now the question is, was this enough of a squeeze? Are they happy getting in here? Or do they want to take it all the way down to the opposite end of balance and get in down there? If I was the powers that be, that's the way I'd do it. I'd really squeeze them. And then out of nowhere, pa-choo! Pavel says not resistance on the Q. Yeah, that's bullish. Starting to drift up into yesterday's range. I still think the ES is probably going to be the decider. If the ES gets resistance at yesterday's low, it'll pull the Q with it. All right, so just to review, for those of you that are kind of new to the two-way auction and you may not understand what's happening here, there's multiple different things in play, okay? From the overnight where the bad news or the good news came out, the market sell-off, that's called a liquidation break, okay? So that's just basically squeezing out anyone that was long in here, looking for the market to head higher. They just squeeze them all out at once, okay? Shake out all those longs, allowing the market to pull back down. So that's the first thing that's happening, right? That created a gap down. So the first order of business is for the market to try to fill that gap, to try to get back up to yesterday's high. But that's not actually bullish. This move up is not bullish at all. It is merely part of the auction process. We just need to give the market a chance to recalibrate, so to speak. So it's only at yesterday's low that we'll really find out whether we're going to get continuation lower or not, or if we fail to get to yesterday's low. So if you guys are starting to get super bullish in here on the ES, not the NQ, if you're starting to get super bullish in here, it's worth reminding yourselves that we don't know how the market is going to react today until they've either filled the gap or failed to fill the gap and start heading lower. Johnny, thank you, Malish. Good day, sir. Arain, ES's yesterday's low is the overnight halfback. Yeah, I mean, that's probably more coincidence than anything because of that liquidation. But yeah, expect some resistance in there for shizzle. All right, well, feels like a gap and go, so I am bearish now as long as we stay below yesterday's low. I'll get back to neutral if we start to push back up into yesterday's range. But to me, it feels like we should have been able to fill that gap. And we're starting to get some new sellers piling on here. And that, in my mind, means those sellers might be looking at that balance area low down at 40.84 as a target to the downside. If you wanted to be super cautious, you could wait for the market to get back down below the overnight low and sell resistance there. Still be a decent move to that balance area low. WSS, I'm looking long at 40.17. $40.17. What? Did you mean 41.17? Oh, 41.17. WSS will not chase the breakout. You mean chase the gap fill? Good call. Mateus, sell the gap fill on the ES. You know me, I'm not going to tell you what to do. But we got value lower. If we get resistance there, we have a gap and go. Those are both bearish. We also have a look above and fail of a previous balance area. That is also bearish. So take with that information and do what you will. Where is the gap fill? Up to 41.36. Nunez, well, the short entry would be either, the resistance at yesterday's low. So when you see that it's pushing up in there and it can't get back up into yesterday's range, just going short. Or you could wait for the market to start pulling back. If it tries to fill the gap, so if it pushes up in here and it spends some time and it's grinding and it starts to sell off, wherever the high was, putting your stop above there would be pretty safe. Once we get resistance at yesterday's low, it should give us a sell-off. If it doesn't, and we start to push back up, you want to be out of that trade. So yeah, just look for wherever the resistance is. Once it's confirmed, go short, and your stop is above the high that was created. Or like I said, if you want to be super patient and like absolutely confident, you could wait for the break of the overnight low. Because of the balance area, like if you wait for this to break, you could still make this move. You know what I mean? That's a 30-point move. Or, sorry, a 20-point move. So there's plenty of money to be made if you want to be cautious and wait to get in the overnight low. But if you're trading a gap and go, there's nowhere better to get in than right at the previous day's low. As that's where the resistance is waiting. Sellers are just licking their lips, waiting to get in up here. How do I determine the gap? The gap is the distance between the previous day's low and today's open. So we opened down here, right? So the gap was to yesterday's low. Element, if we can't fill the gap, that is bearish. Yes, sir. Think about it. All the people that have been buying since the market opened this morning, every single one of them, what are they trying to do? They're short-term traders and they're trying to fill the gap, right? That's what they're trying to do. So if the market's pushing up here and it can't fill the gap, well, then every single long in the whole market is going to start panicking. The more and more and more it pulls back, the more and more and more they'll panic. And then you get a liquidation. So yeah, a gap and go where they can't even fill the gap is very bearish. But so is filling the gap and getting resistance there. It's equally as bearish. Thank you. It's Dave. Appreciate it. All right, moment of truth. Looking for that resistance around 41.36. Doesn't have to be that exact level. It'll do a bit of grinding. But that is where we are looking for the sellers to step in and take charge. Poor high is in need of repair. Mark says, do you trust the A low? I don't. You're right. Terrible taper down there. And only going one tick below the opening price is kind of just a sign that like they didn't really get a chance to do business. Everybody was so eager to fill the gap. So, yep, that low is not a good low. Shit's weak. MP, correct. Yeah. So yet when I use the term yesterday's low, I'm referring to the low that was in at 4 p.m. yesterday. All right. There's the repair of the poor high. Looking for that resistance. Perfect timing right when we get back to the zero line. So let's see if the sellers slap the buyers on down. Interesting. All right, well, that is not the resistance you would expect for a gap and go, so I'm back to neutral. Now I'm looking for a pullback to find support and see if we can get back above. Well, we're above the balance area high, but see if we can stay above there. So wait, Charles, are you bullish? Does this mean you're bullish? No, no, no. I'm neutral. I got to wait and see now. Won't get bullish till I get some kind of confirmation that we can stay up inside yesterday's range. All right, things are getting a little bullish. We're getting support up here. They're trying to push it down, and they can't. The old is it support or resistance game. Who's going to win? Come on, market. Do something. Make a decision. Mateus, do you ever take the trade at the open for the gap fill? Of course. Almost every time there's a gap. All right. Jesus, I'm bullish. That was a quick flip. So now we are back above the balance area high, and we are finding new buyers back above balance. So the message that tells me is that what happened in the overnight here, this was just a liquidation break. A liquidation break is just the squeezing out of weak hands so that stronger hands, longer term buyers can step in and move the market. And, like I said, it wouldn't be unreasonable for me that they came out with the good numbers on the non-farm payroll, and they thought, well, let's see how cheap we can buy this market. And they just dumped it to get in at a better price. Those sons of guns. So this is once again a breakout of balance. It's still basically the same breakout. This was just a liquidation break. So it's bullish. We got some resistance above us. A little bit at around 50 and then 54. And then the target to the upside is repairing the weak references we left behind yesterday, including a poor high. How's the NQ looking? Very similar to the ES. Filled the gap back inside yesterday's range. Finding support inside yesterday's range is bullish. You got resistance at about 13,262, 13,270, and 13,287. As far as targets to the upside, I mean, it feels like they're channeling. So the upper end of that channel. I don't know that we'll get there today, but that would be where the market is heading. So you'd be looking at something like 13,420. So at this point, the focus becomes this previous balance area. We want to stay above it for continuation. Got some resistance to work through. Falcon 1, someone must have a lot of money to do that. Yes, sir. If you're talking about to be able to dump the market and then buy it up at a lower price, we are talking about people with a lot of money. Johnny, is it correct to think that yesterday's POC is attracting price back up in this case? Yeah, I mean, you could think about it like that, but that's not necessary, right? Like, what is the market doing right now? It's breaking out of the previous balance. That's really so it's not that there's like a magnet pulling on the price up. It's like there's momentum from underneath pushing the price up. I don't know if I just made that way overly confusing. But no, it's like it's a breakout. It's like positive momentum is forcing the market higher. More and more shorts are giving up and covering. More and more new buyers are stepping in and trusting that it's going to keep going. But the weak references from yesterday, those are magnets. So that's a nice spot to target. Ranjan, what would be a good place to enter along? I don't know that you'll get a chance, but if they pull back down into this support at 41.40, you could get him with a nice tight stop. As we now have confirmation that of the breakout. Otherwise, buy support. It's going to be tricky with this resistance here because it's going to take some work to grind through it. But you've got the probabilities in your favor. Break out of balance. That's bullish. And a liquidation break is bullish because it strengthens a market. Plus you got weak references in need of repair. TV, what's the prominent POC market generated information? Resistance? Yeah. Anywhere you got a large volume node, anywhere the market spent a lot of time or brought in a lot of volume, there's likely to be more two-sided trade when you get back there. So yeah, absolutely resistance. But not resistance of new sellers, resistance of buyers taking profits. So they're just going to pull back looking for support. That's all. Mark, everyone I know who has BTC doesn't spend it. Yeah, that's the problem. Everybody who wants the $100,000 Bitcoin case doesn't seem to recognize it's going to require adoption. It can't be purely dreams of it being used in the future. At some point, people have to start using it for it to actually have value. Up till now, they've said the problem is on-ramps. They've said we can't use it. But now there's a lot of on-ramps to use crypto, and people still are choosing not to. This very channel is a perfect example. I had like multiple people ask me to be able to buy stuff on the website with crypto. So I went through it. I did all the work to get it all set up so that you can make payments with crypto. And one person has made a payment one time with crypto since I did that. It's ridiculous. Um, Katie, 4130, good support if we get there. No, 4130 would be back below yesterday's low. So that would be bearish, right? At that point, we would have failed. We would have tried to break out, failed, and then we would have a look above and fail, which would be very, very bearish. So at this point, the only support we're interested in is above yesterday's range, or I mean inside yesterday's range. So this support or this support. We don't want to mess with anything down here. Both indices testing that 20 moving average on the 15-minute candles for some resistance right now. If we can clearly break through them, that would be bullish. MW is the B high week. Yes, it is. It's right at yesterday's closing price. Abigail, is a weak high a magnet to pull the market? Yes, it is. So the way weak references work, they're not quite like poor references. Poor references are a good, strong magnet. Weak references aren't that strong. But the more of them that you stack up, the higher the probability you'll repair them. So, for example, if all we had was this weak high from today, maybe we repair it, maybe we don't. Who knows? We got to wait and see. But with multiple weak highs above, it increases the odds. It's now 3 times more likely that this one will get repaired because there's 2 more weak references above. Does that make sense? So the more you stack, the higher the probability they get repaired. Or, at least the first gets repaired. All right, and with that, I will bid you all farewell. So tricky moment here. As I've said, to me, pushing below yesterday's low would be a look above and fail of the balance area. That would be bearish. But I'm going to change that opinion just slightly by a few points and say now if they push below 41.34, that's where I'd start to get bearish. As, we got some single prints that need backfilling now. Doesn't mean we will backfill them, but just that we could and find support right here for the bounce. So I would wait till we got below there to call it a look above and fail. But we should find support within the single prints and continue higher. If the C period high can break the B period high, we will be one time framing higher, which would just be one more bullish indicator. So just to give you some perspective, something to consider. Break out of balance, bullish. Initial bounce to the upside, bullish. Liquidation break that doesn't get new selling, bullish. So lots and lots of bullish indicators here. Oh, weak references in need of repair, bullish. The only thing that's really kind of bearish right now is the fact that value is overlapping to lower from yesterday. But if we keep pushing higher and higher today, we'll pull that value area right back up. So I am bullish and looking for support around 41.40. With that, I must bid you farewell. Au revoir. Enjoy your weekends. Party hardy like it's 1999. And Y2K is coming for us. And I look forward to seeing you all here on Monday morning. If you've been thinking about taking the e-course, this is a great weekend for it. Link in the description. Catch you up on the two-way auction before we start again next week. All right, if you are in the brigade, you know what time it is. Let's ride.